Hello and welcome to the Tarkis ZOne. We're going to be doing another segment here, a news around Vermont, and I found an article today that was a little disturbing for me, and let's get in that. You'll find all these videos in the new playlist I've created, News Around Vermont, on my YouTube channel. But let's get into what I want to talk about here. Burlington landlords still racking up violations. Now, if you're not from Vermont and you don't know how the housing works here, is we do have a housing shortage when it comes to the areas closer to the colleges. And I apologize that this is spinning like this. It looks like Burlington Free Press only allows you to watch the video once. And if you want to watch it again, you have to subscribe to their paper. And so I've watched the video, and after watching the video, that's when I decided I needed to do this YouTube video for you folks. So what happens is we have a housing shortage, and what that does is it forces college kids to basically fight for places to live when the school's going. So envision this: you got a college kid trying to improve their education and help with the movement of our society to a very educated, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get educated so they can add to the wealth of our society. And they're already getting saddled with crazy tuition rates and saddled with all these loans, and they can barely pay to eat ramen noodles, and then they have to find housing, and they get gobbled up by these slumlords. And what I for the life of me don't understand is how these slumlords get away with what they do. And if you were to watch this video, this poor guy has buckets in his walkway because every time the neighbor takes a shower or something, it's raining into his apartment. And this has been going on 6 months, and the landlord's not fixing it. Or I would call him a slumlord. And what happens is mold will start collecting in between the floors. Black mold will start collecting in between the floors. When you got a slow leak like that that's always coming down, and it's bath water, I guess it's soapy, it's not healthy, okay? But this college kid doesn't really have many options because of the housing shortage. So it's not like this guy can just move out, and, he don't have options unless he wants to go to a hotel and live. I don't understand why the city of Burlington is allowing this nonsense to happen. Now, this slumlord, I guess his last name is Kwon, Kwon. And months ago, he had 88 criminal counts brought against him by the city over living conditions and rental properties, which he markets towards college kids. So he's marketing these things, and they dismissed all these complaints. And if you look into what these complaints about, what normally happens with a city is people will complain. There'll be a suit filed against them saying you're not making it, you're not doing what the code tells you should be doing. And at that time, the landlords usually work with the city to say, okay, these are my hurdles, but I'm willing to get this fixed. And then they drop the counts. They drop the criminal counts because the landlord at that point is saying, look, I'm going to fix this. Well, in this guy's situation, he basically scammed him. He basically said, yeah, I was going to fix this, and nope, not really. I mean, if you read this article, he even talks about that he should not have to maintain 65 degrees in these apartments. I mean, that's how terrible this is. I mean, if you live in Vermont, I keep my thermostat at 68 in the wintertime. Imagine keeping it at 65, okay? And this guy doesn't want a threshold at all. It shouldn't be his responsibility, even though utilities is part of the package. So imagine spending $725 for an apartment which has utilities, and then your landlord's mind is, I don't mind that the neighbor above you is raining down on you, and I don't believe that I should keep your apartment at 65 in the wintertime. I mean, that's what the nonsense is here. And I don't understand why Burlington is allowing this. Now, I understand the economic part of this, where if you've got a housing shortage and you've got a guy who gobbled up all this real estate, he is paying his taxes. Okay, that revenue is going to the city. He's also got a big footprint around. And if this guy decided, I'm just going to close them all down, go home and take my money and go, and just let those apartments just burn there in the city, that's not good for the city, because that's just dead real estate that's not bringing them other than the tax money this guy is giving up. It's just because you got to have people in your city to help with revenue flow. I mean, because when somebody rents an apartment, they're spending money in your city. They're spending money in the local environment. And outside of that, Vermont just needs to do the right thing here. I mean, this guy just continues and continues to have violations that seem crazy. Leaking pipes. There's one guy that says he's got a burst pipe, so he can't even do his laundry, and the guy won't send a plumber to fix it. And that's the ridiculousness of this. And I will put this link as part of my comments. What burns me about this is, when it comes to survival, the basic minimum of survival, you need to have shelter, right? I mean, if you're out in the wilderness, even if you find food and water, if the environment around you is hostile and you can't find shelter, you're not going to live long. That's the reality of it. And you should not be targeting college kids who are trying to get an education and have them live like this. I mean, how is it that you're going to go to the... I mean, I just don't get it. For the life of me, I don't understand. So they continue to work with this guy, but if you start looking at some of these photos and watch that video for yourself, you're going to see what I'm talking about. All right, I'm just going to breeze down here to see so you can read this while I'm doing it myself. Yeah. Okay, here's a good point. College students don't have the resources or the time to address these issues with their landlord. And they move around often, meaning that, okay, my ceiling's leaking, screw that, I'm going to see if I can find something quick on someone's couch, or find somebody who's got an extra bedroom or a closet I can live in. So they move. And the new person goes in not knowing the leak is there, and that person's stuck with it. And the landlord is cashing in left and right, because he's probably keeping the deposits that you're giving, because you gave them, imagine this, you set it up. I want $1,000 security deposit for last month's rent, and you got to give me a month's notice before you leave. Well, if my ceiling is leaking on top of me and I move out prior to giving him a month, he gets to keep that, right? So he's basically creating money for himself for basically duping these college kids in to live in these terrible, terrible apartments, and then probably keeping the deposits, because he's like, oh, you didn't give me notice, you moved out prior to the lease, or whatever that might be. I mean, it just seems like this guy's a scurvball, and I don't understand how this is happening in Vermont. I mean, most of the people you meet in Vermont, they're very kind, helpful. They want to make sure that your well-being is good. I always felt that when I'm walking around Vermont, my neighbor, I have a good feeling that my neighbor is looking out for me, that my well-being is to the benefit of their well-being, right? Because if you have a community that gets together and wants to grow, strong, economically, then you've got to have people that with compassion, right? And in this case, oh my goodness, what is the city of Burlington doing? Somebody should get on this. I mean, it's not, especially when the guy's arguing, he's got to keep it at 65 degrees. Yeah. Here, I would not think it fair to require the tenants to have the thermostat at full blast in order to maintain the minimum temperature requirement. Oh man. When I was in college, it was interesting because our college kept the dorms at 68 degrees, and there were times that it got cold. And what we would do, and what they would do is they would lock a plastic case over the thermostat so you couldn't move it. What we would do is go down to the local hotel and fill a bag of ice, and then we'd come back and duct tape the bag of ice on the plastic covering, forcing the thermostat to kick on the furnace. And that's how we did it. But I mean, in this case, these people were jacking it right up. So he's got insulation problems. He's got heating facility problems. This guy's got all sorts of problems. You know, imagine coming to your apartment, spending $725 and having to deal with this nonsense month after month after month. Well, I think I got my point across, and I will add this to the links to my comment section here. It's just that I just feel bad for these people, of these college kids. I feel bad for anybody that someone's taking advantage of them. And, you know, I'm for the little guy. If you're getting taken advantage of just because of your circumstance, you know, housing shortage, lack of funds, and you're trying to do the right thing, I think it's terrible that these landlords step on you. I really do. Well, thank you for joining me. This has been the Tarkis ZOne.